Hello and welcome back to the Lenko Show. This is episode number 14 with myself, Alex, and Chris today as well. Today, we are going to be talking to you about discipline. Ooh, the big D, the D word. Chris, it helps if you want to say anything rather than just pulling a silly face, or is that going to be your contribution for today?
You know what? I was going to make a worse contribution. I was just going to say something silly, and I used my discipline to not say it.
Well done. I will credit you for that behaviour. Do you know what? Actually, I've got something amusing. Well, I think it's amusing. It's probably not remotely amusing at all. I went shopping today, believe it or not. Shopping.
That is amusing.
Supermarket and everything. Bought food, and when I originally got out of the car, walked around to get the shopping bags out of the car, and there was a puddle in sort of like in between the car parking spaces, and this woman in a big Merc G-Wagon basically just drove through it at like 30 miles an hour in a car park, soaked me. So my initial personality is to want to run up to her window and start yelling at her, open the car door, pull her out of the car, put her in the road and give her a good talk. I didn't do any of that. Instead, I was very passive, calmed myself down, gave her multiple looks of disgust whilst looking at my wet trouser leg, to the point where, and actually this is the moment that I think is most important in all of this, because I actually thought, you know what? I respect you. Because when I was in the supermarket, I was going around, so like going all through all the fruit and veg, and she came up to me and she went, "I'm so sorry. I think I soaked you with that puddle, didn't I?" And she apologized. And I was like, "It's fine. I'll dry off. I'll get over it. I'm glad you recognized your mistake. And I'm very grateful for you to come up and actually own it."
Wow.
And take responsibility for that. And normally you wouldn't get that, would you?
Well, I mean, in your circumstance, no, you wouldn't, because you wouldn't give them chance.
So two things I'm proud of there. Number one, myself, obviously, by controlling, maintaining discipline, not ripping her head off for driving through a puddle. And then also big respect for her for coming up and apologizing.
100%.
So thank you.
Little did she know how close she was to a very different day.
Oh, it could have been so different for her.
You know what that was, Alex?
What was that?
That was you not being able to control the event, but controlling your response and getting a good outcome for the both of you.
Yeah.
She'll have felt bad, which is why she apologized, and then you made her feel, well, okay about it, I guess.
The other thing as well, though, because there's a lot of risk involved when you do something like that, and you actually go up to the person to apologize. That could go one of two ways. You know, it could have easily been another.
You could have very easily turned around and gone, "Oh, it was you, was it?"
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that.
You know, I'm proud of you, Alex. There's certainly an opportunity for growth in that area of your life, and you've.
I've toned down my aggressive side. I've learned how to channel it a little bit better.
I was going to say, we don't want to tone it down. We don't want to suppress, but we would like to control it somewhat.
I think it was very virtuous of me. I think very righteous of me to not commit an act of aggression in her direction, even though
you know what though, you got to be careful, because did you just become passive aggressive? Because in theory, what you could have done, which potentially might have been more toward your values, is you could have approached them by telling them that they'd soaked you, letting them know what they'd done wrong, letting them know what they could do in future, but saying, you know what though, it's fine. I'm fine.
Do you know
And you
what?
could have given them the opportunity to apologise then and there, and you've played your part perfectly.
Yeah, you're dead right in that. That is another favourable situation. However, no aggression was exchanged other than a look of disapproval from myself, and situation resolved, and everyone went about their day feeling great about themselves. So,
you know what?
win-win in that
It'd be
scenario.
great if that was a targeted attack and you were deliberately splashed and the lady deliberately apologized to test you and to make sure she got you.
Well, in that scenario, there's only one thing that I can say. That is understandable. So anyway, today's topic, we're going through discipline. Now, I think this is important for many reasons. Number one, at the moment, I think a lot of people are struggling for motivation, whether that means that you are kind of at a bit of a dead end as to, asking yourself the question, why are we doing any of this? Why do I train? Why would I train? A lot of people I know questioning, why would I continue to train and practice and play the sport when we've not got a game, we've not got a season, we've not got anything coming forwards for it. There's nothing to look forward to. Equally, business work-wise, even some of the natural rewards we would probably put in place for ourselves and work towards, like a holiday, we can't even go and do that. So the question is, why are we doing everything, and how do we maintain some form of motivation and drive to be able to keep those things up? So what I want to go through first, the actual definition of discipline is the practice of training people to obey rules. I already don't like it. Obey rules, be submissive. So the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior using punishment to correct behavior, that is discipline. Now, if you've got a dog, and I can talk about it because I'm looking at getting a dog. I've told you this, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm looking at getting a dog, and I'm looking at training said dog so it behaves itself. When you're training a dog, you do not punish it. You reward the good behavior. Now, when we do something as people, we love, or we naturally seem to err towards doing the opposite. We don't praise ourselves or credit ourselves for the positive actions, but as soon as we do anything detrimental, we give ourselves a hammering. Do we not? If you recognize that in yourself, maybe a point of change there, maybe some consideration for you. Do you do any of that, Chris?
Oh, 100%. I am, I can't remember what Steve, I think he calls it the 1% club, which is where, and do you know what? You're probably this too. I was about to call myself a high performer. People who are higher achievers, higher performers, in my opinion, tend to have this trait. Not always, obviously. It's just what I found in people that I've trained and worked with. But a 1% crew or club, whatever, is like you can do 99% of the things you needed to do correctly or really well, and 1% not so well, and you'll spend too much energy, too much time focusing on that 1% on how you can improve, i.e. punishing yourself, if that makes sense. Would you agree with that? Would you say that you're one of those?
Yes. Yeah. And so it with that kind of situation, it's how you view that final 1%. So you've squeezed 99% of the juice out of the orange, but there's that last little, like, and I'm a sucker for that. Like whenever I'm, if it's drinking a protein shake or it's squeezing the toothpaste out of the tube, you can always see there's a little bit in there, or like even in the bottom of your ketchup bottle, there's that little bit, and you can be at it for it to the point where I have actually got scissors or a knife and cut the ketchup bottle open to scoop out that final bit of the ketchup to put it like, so it's how do you view that 1%? If you view the 1% as being, potential and opportunity to move forwards, good. Like you view it in a positive light. But if you view the 1% as, oh shit, like I failed at that, I might as well have not bothered, and you completely negate the previous 99%, well, you're teaching yourself to not be successful. You're actually teaching yourself to consistently fail.
Yes. And I think that is the subtle difference in shifting paradigm or shifting your mindset even.
So the core principle of today's podcast, discipline equals freedom. Just let that sink in.
Is this going onto YouTube?
Yeah, always.
So it's worth noting for anyone who can't see, if you're just listening to the podcast, there is actually a manual on how to utilize this principle, discipline equals freedom. And that's what I was showing that to the camera then, by Jocko Willink. Get yourself on Amazon or listen to this podcast because we're going to tell you about it anyway. But there is an actual manual that describes, and I tell you what, I'm going to give you a quote. All right.
Oh, I love a quote. Go on.
Okay. I'm going to give you two quotes, and that's generous.
Stop it. Great.
Well, see, this is the thing. This is the thing, because I'm going to do my best to try not to just read the whole thing to you, because that would be beneficial. All right. Here's the first part. To reach goals and to overcome obstacles and become the best version of you possible will not happen by itself. It will not happen by cutting corners, taking shortcuts, or looking for the easy way. There is no easy way. There must be discipline. Discipline is the root of all good qualities, the driver of daily execution, the core principle that overcomes laziness and lethargy and excuses. Discipline defeats the infinite excuses that say, not today, not now, I need a rest, I will do it tomorrow. There is only one way, the way of discipline. Those first two quotes. And that is shared across one page. And that's just the start. But I think it's important to read that, because the first part of that quote is talking about like looking for shortcuts and corners and stuff like that. And I think when it comes to discipline, one of the things that I've found to have success, I guess, in the area of discipline is to specifically not cut corners. Not necessarily make it as difficult as you need to, but the more so you do that, the more discipline technically is going to be required for a specific job. Does that make sense?
Yes. See, I think when it comes down to the end result, it's always very, very easy to cut corners. It's always very easy to, get a quick one up. But if you bear in mind that anything and everything you ever do, you are constantly developing yourself. Even if you're aiming for a goal that is seemingly insignificant in your life, like maybe it's a sales target at work, the way you work towards that is developing you. That's developing your personality, it's developing your mindset, it's hardening your major qualities, and that's going to be apparent, it's going to be visible. Like, you'll know whether you've done it to the best of your ability, you'll know whether you've done a half-assed job. There's no escaping that. You can't quote from the episode I did with Jason Scott, you can't cheat the grind. You can't. And, thinking in our world, in the fitness world, a perfect example of that might be going on some sort of skinny shakes or slim fast or diet pills, or, taking Mexican supplements, and, maybe you've got preconceived ideas about a vaccine and how much control Bill Gates is going to have over you. But do you know what I mean? Like, you're willing to take all this shit that is going to have negative side effects and is literally there purely to make a profit, versus actually doing it the proper way, doing it right, monitoring your calorie intake, not overeating. Like that's all, like that's pretty much 50% of being in shape. It's just not overeating. It's just not stuffing yourself, not gorging yourself, having a little bit of discipline and going, I've had one cream cake, that'll do, rather than 6.
Now that is easier said than done.
So, you know, if you want the discipline of, or if you want the freedom of feeling great, feeling strong, being fit, being healthy, and enjoying the freedoms and the joys that life brings with it, then you have to have the discipline and not take the shortcuts when it comes to choosing the right foods to eat, when it comes to going out, doing a little bit of exercise. You have to have the discipline towards that. You can't escape it. You can do the skinny diet, skinny shakes, but eventually at some point, you're probably going to go back to eating normal food or eating a pizza every night with a tub of ice cream.
I mean, it's an interesting way of looking at it. Do you know, one thing that I always think about is like the word, obviously you gave the definition and I've just given like Jocko's breakdown of it. But when I think of discipline, I think of like, what is the specific daily action that is the discipline? Like not this over encompassing big word that is discipline that means like lots of things. I just think of like, what is the one specific thing? Like I remember listening to, I don't know if you'll ever listen to him because there's a CrossFit guy, but Ben Berger on. But he's talking about, do you know what? He's really, really good. And if you're listening to this podcast, you should also be listening to his as well because he's very, very good. He's very clever as well. But one thing that he talks about is, and I remember this because Chris Warren told me, I think the comedian, it was a comedian, I think it was Jerry Seinfeld, but either way, he was like one of the most successful. Have you heard this story before, Alex?
Just tell the story, because whether I've heard it or not, people that are listening probably haven't.
Okay, so he was one of the most successful comedians of all time. I actually found some figures earlier. So in 1998, he made $267 million. All right, as a comedian. All right, so even nowadays, that's actually, I have no reference for that. I don't know if that's good nowadays for a comedian, but I'm guessing it is. It seems good for anyone. So, so there's a story that he was asked for advice by an up-and-coming comedian who was wanting to break through into Hollywood and become a successful comedian. And he said, like, what do I need to do to become successful? And the advice that he gave was to write one joke every single day. And I re-listened to this earlier today because I actually think it's brilliant. And obviously you said we're going to be doing this about discipline. And it was to write one joke every day. And the idea was you get into the habit of being funny, telling a joke. Well, you'll have to write maybe 3 or 4 every day.
I'm trying.
But the idea was you get into build the habit of being that person, the comedian that tells jokes. Like if you do it every day, you're building up a chain, you've built the habit, you've built the action, and you've got 365 good jokes if you've done that. So you're literally constantly working on your craft. And the idea as well is you are that person more often than you are not that person. Like I think he actually describes it quite funny. He says something like, the quote is, we are what we repeatedly do, not we are what we sometimes do. Sometimes when we feel like it, we are what we repeatedly do. So when I think of discipline, I think of what the overall goal is. What is the one thing that you could do each day, as small as it may seem, that will eventually get you to that goal or even beyond and doing better than that goal?
Again, it's the small, insignificant daily actions, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the snowball effect of doing the things that seem mundane, that seems like they won't help, but will actually cascade into something that, equates to achieving a goal or better.
So, I mean, I think when someone notices that they are experiencing a lack of discipline, and I have had this recently with someone, to me, that simply says, I've noticed a part of my life where I'm not living to my current ideal standards. And I think if you're in that situation where you notice a lack of discipline, that is step number one done. You've recognized that you are not currently behaving in the way that you want to behave and the way you want to be, or who you want to be as an individual. So then, like you've said there, once you've recognized that and you recognize that area of indiscipline, whether it's around nutrition, whether it's around training, whether it's around your mindset, your finances, any particular area, once you've recognized that, you can then come up with your specific daily action. Kind of, you can simplify things. And that's the one thing I would always go to, simplify things.
Yeah, it doesn't even need to be a daily thing, but if you're doing it more often than not, then it's more likely to get you there faster.
Yep. Greatness is born out of the mundanity of the everyday tasks that nobody wants to do. It's sweeping the sheds, cleaning your boots. You know, it's doing those basic things. So my next question for you, Chris, is where does discipline come from?
Immediately makes you think of.
How do you get there? So we've said like step one is noticing a lack of discipline. Where does it come from? Where does that drive and that desire to be better at something, where does that come from in the first place?
You know what? I like that question because it makes me think of Tony Robbins when he said, change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of changing. I really like that quote. And I think that is it. Like, in a simplified format, in one way or another, you would rather do the task or action or habit and achieve the goal, or at least do what it takes to like get to where you think it's going to get you to, than not change at all and stay where you are. Like, you have to have made that, I guess, connection in your head that where you're going to is better than where you currently are.
Phone's ringing.
It's ringing. We're just going to let that one play out.
Yeah, you're going to have to unplug that in the future. So, whilst Chris answers the phone, I'm going to answer my own question because there are a couple of other things I wanted to get in there as well. So, where does discipline come from? Obviously, you've heard Chris's take on it. I think there are two ports of call when it comes to discipline coming from somewhere. The first one is external, so from someone out on the outside. So it might be a parent, a relative. Obviously, your parent is a relative, but a family member or a friend or a boss trying to, crack the whip and drive you and move you forwards. But the problem is that form of discipline is weak and it doesn't last. So it's like me and Chris as trainers, we can say, right, let's go do this, this, and this, and we can motivate and push and move and try and push you forwards. But it's only going to get you so far. And again, even in a team scenario, even in a team setting, the coach can kind of get everyone juiced up and fired up for a training session or a game, but it's only going to take you so far. Ultimately, your discipline has got to come from an internal perspective. It has to come from within you, either from within you as an individual or within the team, changing room, as a group, as a collective. Everyone has to buy into that discipline. Everyone has to make a decision to either do more, be better, ultimately make a mark on your life. That's what discipline is. That's what discipline comes from. It has to come from you making a decision to do more or be better and make a mark in your life. So you have to decide how you want to do that. Would that be fair to say?
I think that's very fair to say.
So, question, who do you want to be? Because this is where you need to put the focus, isn't it? If you've got the focus on who you want to be, you can start to answer that question.
Sorry to cut you off there. Sorry, I was just thinking like a lot of what I've seen and dealt with on it is to do with like you're looking to make a sacrifice for the short term with the long-term gain in mind. So thinking of the final destination, not the films, they won't help. Thinking of the final destination, where you're trying to go, who you want to be, etc. The bigger universal existential questions that you want to ask yourself, and then work back, reverse engineer from there.
I think I'm just looking at so every time I do one of these podcasts, I make a few notes, and I like to I've written down a few of Chris's quotes, always very useful, but mainly just to keep track of my thoughts and make sure I remember what I said, because I tend to go down a few rabbit holes with it. But one of the things that I've written down, I've just circled them now on my piece of paper, is that everything within discipline links back to making a decision. So it's always conscious. It's not like, when we were talking the other week about setting New Year's resolutions, and they're a bit wishy-washy and they don't work because they're not particularly conscious. It's just a sub level of thought and emotion that's kind of being vomited and projected through in a bit of a off the cuff moment, rather than actually sitting down, getting your thoughts and getting your head together to actually think about it. So Chris, I want to ask you a few questions about one simple action you would implement in a particular scenario.
Dance fighting.
To create discipline.
All right. Sorry.
So, number one, you've got a lack of time. What are you going to do about it?
It's funny that you asked me that one, because I've historically been rubbish at organising my time. But that's it. So I guess if there is a perceived lack of time, usually it comes down to always it comes down to your time management. So, I mean, I'm trying to give the best answer for the entire audience. Find the specific action that best helps you manage your time. For example, diarize everything. I've got a Mac and I put everything in the calendar on there and I diarize things. And I'll tell you what is, if you want to get the absolute gold standard, Alex, this is a tippy tip. This is a tippy tip, right? And this, I'll say this out loud because my dad can hear me. This annoys everyone that I spend a lot of time with. All right. Oh, well, no, this annoys everyone that I spend relaxed time with, like home time and stuff like that. Because what the tippy tip is to put alarms on your phone that are reminders to tell you when you're supposed to be doing each thing.
So diarize everything and set an alarm for each one.
Well, not necessarily everything, but the most important things. And we're going to go with a tippy tip.
I wasn't ready for the tippy tip, let alone the tippy tip.
The tippy tip is to put the most important things first. I remember I was talking to Senor Squishy, as I call him, Josh Riley, who is one of the fantastic trainers at Preston. And we were talking about, do you disciplines, as in the stuff that you need to do first, and then the stuff that you want to do can come after that. So if that's really that's for if you're quite a disciplined person anyway. You do, and a driven disciplined person, you do all the stuff that you need to do first thing in the day or in the morning, and then you can do whatever you want outside of that. But the actual tip I would give is you need to work on your time management, because everyone gets the same amount of hours in a day. There's no way that you can not have enough time. And there'll be people who have kids who are like, you don't have kids, you don't understand. First of all, you've not met me dad. I'm joking.
Oh my God, we're laughing, but it's so true.
I'll get a slap later. No, on a serious note, I understand it will be harder, but if you know there's certain things that the kids need to have at certain times, they go in the diary, and there's certain things that you need to do, regardless of where your kids are at, like assuming you're not just leaving them somewhere. Obviously, you would think that through first. But let's say they're at home, which I'm guessing they are, especially at this time of the evening, and they would be anyway. Like, you've got half an hour to do something, even if it's something. All right. There will be ways. Like, there are parents out there who have got time. Ask them. Because you're not truly, as a parent, you're not truly going to believe me because I don't have kids. And you know what? I don't condemn you for that. That's probably right. Go and find a parent who's got time and ask them. But it always starts with the time management, diarise things. The tippy tip is to put alarm on your phone to tell you when you're supposed to be doing those important things. The tippy tip is to do the most important things first. Because even if you run out of time throughout the day, you've done the most important stuff anyway. Genius.
I would also add in there is because as people we tend to have this desire to please everybody and to make everybody love us.
That's not one that you've got, is it, Alex?
No, not at all. Not at all. Tell you how it is. So because most people have this desire to please everybody, one of the things that we do need to learn is how to say no and how to not commit to things purely because you want to do it, but because you can do it and you want to do it. So a lot of the time we're just overcommitting, overstretching ourselves, and we become overwhelmed. And I mean, fortunately at the moment, most of us, me and you, are in a position where we can kind of commit time to things that maybe we wouldn't normally do. Most people are either at home, maybe on furlough, and we have time to do it. Like loads of people over the summer, especially around where I live, had time to go and build a garden shed.
I was wondering why you were pointing behind you. What are they in your back garden?
Or a new outdoor cabin for themselves. Like, we've got time to go and do these things. So it's where are you getting your time from? Like, we all have, I'm hoping my maths is right, we all have the 86,400 seconds per day. So it's how do we distribute it? How are we spreading ourselves out? Anyway, the next
can I just quickly add to that one very quickly? Like, also with the time stuff, obviously be taking a look at your sleep as well and your sleeping patterns. A lot of people tend to do absolutely nothing gone 10 p.m. They call it relaxing. Sorry, but it's usually not. Take a look at what you're doing after 10 p.m. You might call it relaxing. It's probably not relaxing. Some people it might be, but hey, check your sleep, check your schedule. Sorry, move on to the next one.
On that note, I would say make it an aim of yours to be in bed before the news comes on. Because let's be honest, the 10 o'clock news, right? It's all negative. It's all hysteria. It's nothing that you haven't already seen 20 times during the day anyway, because you've been checking your phone every 5 minutes. Maybe there's a shitload of time there that you could distribute somewhere else. Stop checking your damn phone. Leave it somewhere that you're not going to have easy access to it.
Just interestingly, I was thinking about this. I don't think I've ever heard one positive conversation or had one positive conversation as a result of watching the news.
Yeah, no, ladies and gents,
Not recently.
listeners of the Lenko Show, please let us know. Please write to us and let us know. Write to chris@lenkohq.com and let us know what positive interactions you have had with another person regarding the news. Maybe we can flip his mind on this. Right. Someone wants to improve their physical health. What discipline might you pick? Which road might you go down to improve physical health?
Well, there's a collection of things that probably need to change or improve. I think, personally, nutrition is the foundation. Like you said it earlier. Like, did you say 50? I can't remember what your actual Alex Linkowski research said, but it was something like 50% of not being out of shape is just not overeating.
Yeah, I think it was 50% of your physical appearance is simply not overeating, and the other 50% would be working out and lifting weights. That would equal your 100% of your physical appearance in a very simple format. Yeah.
So my answer to the wider audience is look at what is your issue specifically to you. Is it that you eat okay but you don't exercise? Is it that you exercise but you don't eat well at all? Like, if you go down to the bare bones of it, move around a bit more and eat healthier food. Like at that stage, I don't even. What was the initial question? You said someone who wants to
improve their physical health.
Improve their physical health, right? So you don't even need to worry about eating less. Just eat more good food. Good food being like whole foods, if they don't have a label on them or anything like that.
So to dig a little bit more into the discipline of that, how would you go around getting in more good food? What would be the focus?
The focus, I guess, depending on what your current food situation already is, I would suggest you'd be looking to and again, I guess how good your nutritional knowledge is. If you can eat 3 like proper meals, and by proper meal I mean like form of meat, nuts and seeds, and vegetables with a glass of water every day, you're probably doing better than. And here's another Lenko HQ statistic for you that's coming out of nowhere.
Just going to throw a Lenko percentage out there.
70%. Let's say 70%. There's no scientific reference for that whatsoever, but we're going to go with 70%. You're probably doing better than most if you can do that. If you can do that, it's probably going to control satiety levels better. You're getting a good balance of beneficial nutrients in. Probably curb your hunger a little bit because you're eating better things. You probably have better energy levels. Like that's my timer. That's my timer. Apologies, Jeff. Lost my train of thought.
I can't even remember what you were on about. I just got excited. I think when it comes to nutrition, I think you've got to pick the easy win and make that one little thing a focus. So it might be something like eat more protein or eat a portion of protein with every meal in an evening. Do that for a week. Then the next week you go, right, keep the portion of protein. That's a habit. We're building on that. Let's add in some greenery, some vegetables, get some good nutrition in there. And then from that, you probably start to find that your palate changes, your taste buds change slightly, and you find it easier to go and eat healthier foods and more whole foods. And you slowly build on it. And again, once you start improving the positive components of your nutrition, the negatives tend to be less attractive. Like, I don't know if you've ever come across this, but I think there was an experiment many years ago with donkeys and alcohol, beer or lager, and they gave these donkeys a trough full of it, And it was basically, right, drink as much as you want, and we're just going to measure it at the end of like each day or whatever. And then half the donkeys were given a multivitamin, and naturally they simply stopped drinking as much alcohol. So make your focus on improving the good things before you take away the negatives.
I was also going to add to that one, just one last one. It's equally as easy to give something like, stop doing this every day. If you're looking for rewards for your efforts, a simple one for most people, especially nowadays, could be just stop wasting money on shite from like McDonald's and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think, to be fair, I think that place should just be shut down. Wait, what? I'm not opinionated. Hold on. So, what I would recommend, I've actually set this for one of my clients in May as well. She's doing a great job with it. Is basically set out your rules for living. Now, I've got 5 fairly simple ones.
5 rules
that I've just kind of written down in some capacity. Number 1, wake up early. Get ahead of the day. You know, you go back to kids and parents and things like if you've got kids, be up before your kids. Be up and ready to go. Hit them in the face with a sponge when they wake up. You know, don't give them a chance to get on top of you. It's very, very hard to get on top of someone who's like very high energy and already active. If you're in the process of waking up and you're kind of dazed and semi-conscious, good luck. Number 2, work out, train, do some form of exercise, even if it's a minute. Go and do something. Number 3, eat right. Get good food in, like we've just said. Focus on the positives. Number 4, like this one. Pay attention to your mindset. Some form of self-awareness, self-reflection, meditation, if you like. Sit down, have a bit of a think about yourself on your own for 5 minutes. And then number 5, learn something. Pick up a book. Listen to another Lenko show. Get some good quality information. Feed your mind. Feed your mind.
Yeah, you know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of when you first joined ProFit, at least back then, when you joined and when I joined. Like, one thing that your mentor, who is basically like, obviously a mentor is a mentor, they sort of like oversee everything that you're doing and guide you through what you need to be doing, etc., and make sure that you are on top of yourself as well as your business and things like that. 3 main things that you focus on and that you need to have in order to progress with your business is eat, train, sleep. Do you remember that when we used to go through that every single week with your mentor? It's like, okay, how's your food been? How's your training been? How's your sleep been? And even less than a 7 was critical. You're going to get questions. But I would, for the wider audience, eat, train, sleep would mean food. How is your food? Train being move, and training your mind as well. One and the other, because moving still training your mind, and then sleep as usual. Keep on top of those 3
fundamentals. And if you can simplify your life in that fashion, it doesn't need to be fancy. Like, that will pay dividends. It will pay off, and it will result in, bigger outcomes, bigger payoffs.
You know what? I'm going to tell everyone who's listening now to do that exercise. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 of how good has your food been this week? How good has your training been? Training mean personal development. So have you learned anything? And your actual physical exercise. How good has your sleep been? Take a look. Anything that's less than 7, so say you've got 2 that are 8 and 1 that's like 6. The one that is the 6 is the reason that you currently aren't doing as well as you think you're doing, or you just don't feel as energized as you have done, or anything like that.
I will create a questionnaire, and I'll pin that to the show notes, to the description of this podcast. for anybody who fills that in, we will send you a personalized video with some pointers and some little tips that you can exercise, you can implement to move yourself forward. How about that? We will do that.
Maybe even tippy tips.
We will send you
just foreseeing now. Now, obviously, you can't kid a kidder. You can't kid a kidder, and you can't bullshit a bullshitter. And that's me. So I'm going to see through your lies. Okay. All right. I have tried every which way of getting around these with my mentor in the past. Years ago, obviously. I'm a better man now. I was young then. So whatever way you try getting around it. So I'm just thinking now, people might look at this and they might go, yeah, but these are bad because of this. Yes, that might be correct. Now you know where your discipline needs to be. Your discipline needs to be whatever resolves that particular thing, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So let's say my sleep is bad because of my kids. Well, we can't get rid of your kids as much as you might like to. We're not going to get rid of them. What could you do? Because there's always something that will help you get better sleep despite or in spite of having the kids. Not in spite, despite, sorry.
Yeah, I can't wait for all 3 listeners to write to you and try and walk their way around you. I think that's going to be it.
Who are the 3?
I have no idea. It don't tell me.
It's probably me and you.
I don't listen to it. I know for a fact that you don't. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with a closing thought on discipline. And I know Chris has covered this to a degree already, but here we go. So humans naturally look for the shortcut. We've said that. We will always look for the shortcut. We naturally do it. We want the shortcut or the hack. But this will not result in you becoming who you want to be. And that needs to be the focus. Your focus, when it comes to your discipline, your focus has to be on becoming who you want to be. And that happens with one small decision at a time. One small decision at a time. That's all we're telling you to do.
Very poetic there.
Telling you.
All right.
Right. What are you supposed to be doing at this time? Anyway, that is it for episode number 14. I think we're on now. Episode number 14, all about discipline. Again, check through the show notes, check in the description. There will be a questionnaire form there for you to fill in, and we will respond. We will respond to you. So if you fill it in, we'll get back to you because we've got
try and bullshit me. Try it.
Because we've got like 4 people listening at the minute, so we can definitely get back to all 4 of you.
You know what? Actually, I'm struggling for time.
Be amazed if we get 100% of people. Wow. Right. Okay. We'll deal with that another time. So we have got some amazing guests coming up. Again, we've had some fantastic guests on so far. Jason Scott, obviously the most recent one. If you've listened to that, please feel free. Let us know. Give us a review. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you thought to it. And if you've got any other people you would like us to get in touch with and try and get on the show, let us know. Send us a message, write to us, and we will do our very, very best to, I wouldn't say continue to entertain you, but whether we're entertaining at all, I don't know. But we will try to entertain you to the best of our ability. Obviously, I'm going to keep writing my 1 joke a day and try and get funnier. Chris is going to organize stop his alarm from going off midway through a podcast. We endeavor to improve. We will get there. We will be better. We can be better. We must be better. We will make better decisions to do that. So, once again, thank you for listening. Hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've had a good time. Me and Chris have had a great laugh.
I've had a good time. I've had a very good time.
A very good time. So, until next time.
Lenko out.